So today we are the three best friends that anyone could have. We'll get it in early. Go by Team Builder.
My Team Builder, please.
Team Builder.
Not anything else.
Yes. Tremendous solution for storing and distributing programs online if you have large groups of athletes. So previously we have done 4 versions of the Proust Questionnaire. And JJ has informed me that I also need to do this. So let's open the kimono and destroy my career. Here we go.
Yee!
Who's asking the first one?
Scotty, all you.
All right. What do you consider your greatest achievement?
Professionally, probably what I did with Argentina in the World Cup, but I was just along for the ride, and I'm much, much better at what I do now than when I was then. And then I guess like personal life actually took a fucking ton of work to get to America. So I feel like that was probably more work to get myself in a position to move here. And then I guess like my kid. Not that there's still a lot of time to fuck him up yet, but that's a decent achievement. Getting one out. So yeah.
Hell yeah. Fucking love that kid too.
Yeah.
Hooper.
I'll consider keeping him. I'll give serious thought to it.
Still time to sell him. Still time.
Yeah.
Keir, what is your idea of perfect happiness?
I am one of those individuals where if you ask me if I'm happy, I'll immediately start looking for the negative in everything to tell you why I'm not. So the whole like Buddhist thing of losing the sense of self, I'm quite ascribed to. So I think it's like when you're in one of those flow states where you have no sense of yourself. So like either like you're deep in work or you're doing something like meditative or like laughter. I think I read somewhere that like hysterical laughter and sex are basically the 2 times in your existence where you completely lose yourself and you forget about dying. I mean, obviously there's a lot of laughter when I have sex, but it's normally the lady.
There's been times I've had sex and I've thought about dying, even if it was like end stage sex. So obviously it might be from the hysterical laughter. So I get that.
You know what the French call the orgasm? Le petit mort, the little death. For real. You get those post-orgasmic woes.
Oh man.
Or clarity.
Oh,
fair.
Good God, yeah. Yeah.
What is your current state of mind?
I need to do more work. I just before my kid left, I was looking back, I was beating myself up for not doing enough when he was here, but we got the course out, the membership grew, did a bunch of stuff with the site, echo bike the width of the USA, kept the baby alive. So I did a reasonable amount. But then the big thing was like when he left, I think like my body was holding on for him to leave. And when he left, I was fucking exhausted. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do any work until I go out to LA. And then when I go to LA, I'll do a bunch of work. And of course I did fucking none. Not none, but not enough. So I probably need to like pull my finger out and try and get some momentum back in terms of work. So my current state of mind is that it's great to do jiu-jitsu every day, but that's not like a coverall for all my productivity.
But like you always tell us though, like a person and a professional works in spurts. Like there's points of where you kind of sprint and there's times you don't, I wouldn't push yourself and feel too bad about that when I get it.
Yeah, that's very mature, very correct. But as you know, I dispense the advice. I feel like I've definitely done more work in the last week than I have, when I was in California before that. So I'm kind of like ramping up. I'll get back on the horse.
eventually.
Yeah.
What is your favorite occupation?
Whilst I was doing it, it was being a strength coach. You know, I'm like many strength coaches, like I wanted to be a professional athlete. And yeah, I found out to my horror at the age of 15 that I was 5'10", slow twitch, fat, white, and unskilled and not brave. So I was like, okay, academics it is. And yeah, I mean, the reason I wanted to do that was because I thought it was as close to that playing environment that I wanted to be in. And the reason everyone wants to be an athlete is because it's not a real job. Or you think when you're growing up, it's not a real job. And of course, it's a very fun job that has a lot of public appeal. And yeah, certainly when I was, you know, a full-time strength coach, as I think Scott said last week, when it's good, it is really good. And it's a job that, you know, if you wouldn't do it for free, you don't end up being a strength coach, because at some point you're going to have to do it for free. And there are a few jobs I think that most people would enter into that willingly to work for free. So it is a good job, but I feel like, you know, we've discussed privately that, and you know, I've said to Scott when we were working together, which is when a coach enters into a relationship with an institution, at the very least, at the onset of that relationship, it's an equal trade of value. But then as time goes on, it becomes more of a trade of value in the direction of the school and less to you. And I felt that as my career went on, which is everything that I thought I was going to get from the job, I valued much more highly when I was younger. And then as I got to being where I am now, circumstances changed, different things are valued. It was that value had got less. I'm still pretty good at it though.
Undersell, but yes. What is your most treasured possession?
Not that big on possessions. Probably photos.
You know, he hasn't mentioned his son or the fact he's a dad too much during this thing when he's had many corny opportunities to do so, which is concerning. But we'll just
because of my children, my child.
He's not giving in to the dad jokes.
Yeah, nah. Yeah, probably that. If I was my kid, I'm not gonna say fucking laptop like TK. Buy another one, you rich motherfucker. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what is it? What's the next one? What or who is the greatest love of your life? Oh God, this is spicy.
Kid. You know, I was talking to about jiu-jitsu today, and he paid me a high compliment. I love him, John Antonelli, and he said, you can tell you're a good dad. He goes like, oh, you know, a good dad will recognize another good dad. And he said that to me, which it made me happy to hear him say it. But one of the things that he said, which is, if you cut my legs off, I would crawl on my hands to get to my kid. And it's absolutely right. You know, what he was telling me was that his dad was not a presence in his life whatsoever, couldn't be fucked, and, you know, all that bad stuff. And what he said was, you know, I can't understand that at all. And I felt exactly the same way, which is, you know, when you see him come out, you just get that fucking hormone dump. Your brain's like, fuck, anyone touches you, I'll fucking rip their face off. Which, you know, I've not felt about a woman for a good while. I like the ladies, but not to that extent.
We should have put a cow asterisk on us, and he couldn't bring up pooper, but we'll let it slide.
I think it's, if you're talking about women, it's probably naive to think that there's one. You know, it's all a question of compatibility, because it's always, you know, oh, isn't it weird that, you know, of all the people on earth, the love of your life just happen to be within 50 miles of where you live and work, and they speak the same language as you, and they come from the same social background. Isn't that weird? It's just compatibility. So I feel like if you're if you have that notion about like a romantic partner, it's probably naivety more than it is reality. And one of the things that I've clearly failed, but tried to do as I get older, is to work more on being more compatible with the other person rather than just expecting them to be that for me. But then I'm also stubborn, so.
It's mature of you to at least admit it. It's mature of you.
The first step is acceptance.
Oh man,
what is your favorite journey?
My favorite journey? It's weird. Like if I know the country that I'm in, or I live in that area, or it's familiar, I fucking hate long journeys. But yeah, when I went to India in 2009, I took some friggin' monster train journeys, like 18 hours, 24 hours, which it's an interesting way to see the country. I did a lot of that in Argentina, Australia, just like big fucking countries, and just get in the car or get in the train and go. So I've had some interesting journeys doing that. Japan, not so much. USA, not so much. I tell you what, I did
the Birmingham trip.
The Birmingham trip. I was gonna say I did the Pacific Coast Highway to Malibu when I was in LA with Mateo and his girlfriend, which is pretty cool. Because what I find cool, especially as a non-American, is where you see all these landmarks and you hear about these trips and stuff like that in the media, and then getting to experience it in real life. Like the first time I went to Washington, D.C., I was like a dog with two cocks.
Oh my Lord. What is your most marked characteristic?
It's fucking chin, bro. Like fucking Jay Leno and Drew Barrymore's child.
When and where were you the happiest?
Oh yeah, this is where I'm gonna get samey, like seeing my son come out, because I know it's not PC, or especially not in American football to say it, but it's like I've never had a more crystallizing experience that made me believe that God didn't exist, which is weird. But yeah, he came out and I was like, oh, there's no God. But it didn't matter. And it wasn't until I had a kid that I ever looked forward to being older. So my mentality normally, in general, I'm a type A personality where it's always like tick-tock, the clock's ticking, what are you going to get done? Have to do this. Whereas once you have a kid, well, for me it was, you get a bit more excited about, in 10 years, I'm going to be 45, but he's going to be 12. And then you start to think about, what he's going to be like, what his achievements are going to be and shit like that. So, yeah.
What is it that you most dislike?
Intellectual dishonesty. I feel like
dishonesty or stupidity.
I'm not going to be arrogant enough to be like, look at these people over there. This is fucking dumb. I've got the answers. I'm smart and stuff like that. But I just feel like, so many problems in society are kind of like a maladaptation of things that served you when you were a monkey, or, when you were a prehistoric person in a tribe of 250 people. Is it in your interest to have a mortal fear of anyone that doesn't look like you? Yes. Does it work in modern day America? No. Religious bigotry, hating the gays, all this kind of stuff. I feel like if you just dig down, deep enough and be rational about things and articulate your position and let people poke holes in what you're talking about, I feel like a lot of those issues can be solved if you approach them from a rational perspective rather than the man in the sky told you not to. However, anti-fragility. If something has been around a long time, it has value because it's been rewarded by the gene pool of ideas, all that kind of stuff. But, you know, my thinking is that you can have the positive aspects of religion in the absence of divinity and stuff like that.
What is your greatest fear?
The oblivion of non-existence. Next.
What is your...
I'm talking about my fucking fears. You're laughing in my face. Go fuck yourself.
It's just such an existential answer.
Yeah, that's the point.
Oh my God. What is your greatest extravagance?
Probably tattoos. I fucking know. I totted up one year how much money I'd spent on airline tickets for women, and fucking hell, it was in the thousands. I do remember.
That's one thing I will refuse to do. I will not drive extensively or fly extensively or pay a lot out of pocket for something like that.
Or
you know, some for women. I shop for women like I shop for groceries. Hey, it's surplus, bulk, and on sale. Next question.
Which living person do you most despise?
I wouldn't be. You know, what came to mind was the guy that murdered my school friend. But I feel like if you ever read like Sam Harris, he talks about how free will is an illusion. Like, is it that kid's fault that he grew up in a project in Florida, you know, no male role model in the house, poverty, crime, blah, 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 blah. No, not his fault. And, you know, it's upsetting, things like that. But I feel like there are more evil people and more evil acts that, again, free will is an illusion, but you know, the illusion of choice is involved a lot more in stuff like that. So I feel like, you know, stuff like that goes on in North Korea, for example, that's like pretty fucking heavy. I remember watching a video of North Korean society, and there's a video of like people just being like, okay, you, and drag them out into the town square, fucking shoot them, and stuff like that. Saudi Arabia, I think, is just a fucking horrible place. I would not ever want to live there. I actually used to coach a female client who was very high up in the fitness first chain, and she was put in charge of every fitness first in the Middle East. So she lived in Dubai, and she was responsible for every fitness first in Saudi Arabia, but couldn't enter the country as a single female to manage the gyms that she was in charge of. So she had to have a chaperone and go there in a bag. And I just think, fucking hell, like, yeah, if you had a daughter, you would not want a daughter in Saudi Arabia. Now, I'll tell you what, there's one guy who I admire just for the fucking balls on him. His name's Raif Badawi. And the crime for apostasy, which is, you know, giving up Islam in Islam, is death. And, you know, obviously Saudi Arabia is like the most rigorous implementation of Islam. And his crime in Saudi Arabia was to write a blog about his arguments for free speech, atheism, all that kind of stuff. And they sent in this guy, I think it was like several hundred lashes. They publicly lashed him. And he is in prison for 25 years. And his family are now refugees in Canada. And it's pretty fucking heavy. That's like ultimate skin in the game. This is way heavier than TK's. I'm sorry.
What is your greatest regret?
Probably relationships. Definitely. I've always said I used to wear it as a badge of pride. It's probably not, your greatest strength is your greatest weakness. If you told me I had to step over someone to win, I would tread in their face just to be sure. And that kind of like mentality with work, single-mindedness, selfishness has probably ended more than one relationship, it's kind of sucky.
Which talent would you most like to have?
I'd like to be a really good meditator.
Okay, I feel that one.
I kind of
Where
like
would you go ahead?
The blissful state I would aim for.
They make something like that where you don't even have to like wish it. It's just called drugs, tranquil drugs, LSD, things like that. So I've heard and been told you can forget how to feel your kneecaps, but
well, the thing about that is Sam Harris wrote a book about spirituality and the absence of religion. I gave it to Coram actually in case he needed toilet paper, and bro, me and Coram, fucking Coram, I love him. We are like the most distinct in terms of our beliefs, but I love him. Yeah, we were having a conversation once, and he's like, I told him that Thomas Jefferson wrote a version of the Bible that removed all references to Jesus's divinity, and it's called The Moral Teachings of Jesus of Nazareth, and it's just a book about follow Jesus, like his behavioral model. And Eric's like, no, not the case. Jesus was either the Son of God, or he was a liar, or he was a psychopath. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, obviously he was the Son of God. And I was like, okay. But one of the things that he talks about in this book is that what unites all world religions is transcendence of the self. So everybody, Jesus wandered in the desert for 40 days, attained, that kind of like transcendent state, the Buddha under a tree, Muhammad in the cave, all this shit. And it's basically oneness and not being like occupied with yourself. And what he talks about in the book, which is the practices which inhibit this default mode network in your brain, is repetitive stuff like losing yourself in work, meditation, prayer, chanting, all that kind of shit. And then you realize, well, actually what links those religions is the pursuit of that state. And what he writes about is if you become masterful in those states or of those states, it's like peering through the keyhole to a secret garden that you didn't know existed before. Whereas taking acid is like being thrown over the fence. Where you're, like it or not, you are forced to confront the fact that the self is an illusion, which is pretty heavy.
Where would you like to live?
I'm right here. I always felt that my future was to be in America. It helped that I was a strength and conditioning coach, and rightly or wrongly, America is perceived to be the center of the world for that. America is the center of the English-speaking world in terms of money, political influence, all that kind of stuff. For example, nobody gives a fuck who's going to be the next prime minister of Sweden, but you can guarantee Sweden cares who's going to be the next prime minister, the president of the United States, for example. And as like a country and a culture and the idea of America, I feel like that's a much better fit for me personally and my mindset than Japan, for example. So wherever I was living that wasn't England, I always felt like it was a stepping stone to get to America. And within America, Richmond's okay. I think eventually I'll probably end up living somewhere that has like more heat to it. Like I like the heat, and then I like some good shit to look at. So like beaches, mountains, Kew. I do like where you live.
I'm kicking with your boy.
Somewhere like that, but I would like to make America my home permanently, and I'm trying to do that.
Big Scott.
Anchor baby did not help at all.
Oh my lord.
Yeah.
Big Scottsdale guy. You know, I could see Keir being a big Scottsdale guy.
What happens in Scottsdale?
I have no idea. I just know it's one big massive party.
Just blowouts nonstop.
Yeah, just massive parties and lots of porn stars.
Whole lot of bikinis.
I like LA. I know it's fashionable to say that LA is stuck up and everyone prefers San Diego and stuff like that, but I kind of like LA. I think it's got I like cities. But yeah, man, definitely not the Midwest. Definitely not. Not the Midwest, not the Northeast. I think the Deep South would be just fun, like a tourist, but yeah.
You would. What about South Florida?
SoFlo, baby.
Yeah, I could probably live there. We'll see.
It's like the melting pot of women for Keir, which would be perfect.
How are you?
What do you regard as the lowest depth of misery?
That date that I got set up on, her friend, when she was trying to sell it to me, she apologized. She goes, "I'm really sorry. She's white." And I thought, fucking hell, is that the vibe that I got? Yeah. I'm sorry. Next question.
What do you regard as the lowest depth of misery?
For a parent to bury their child.
Oh God.
I've witnessed that a couple of times. And the friend that I mentioned that was shot in Florida, his dad, you know, we'd been friends growing up, and his dad had coached us playing rugby growing up. And I remember seeing him, like, after James had died, it was like he'd fucking aged 10 years overnight. And then obviously the funeral was fucking brutal. Like, his dad got up and spoke at his kid's funeral. I thought, fucking hell. I think no parent should have to bury their kid. I think other than that, I feel like fundamentally all human beings seek connection. And, you know, even the lowest of the low criminals, the worst thing that you can do to them besides execution, and some people think execution is not as bad, is to put them in lockdown by themselves. So I feel like, you know, social, emotional isolation and, you know, having no hope and nothing to look forward to would be pretty miserable. Because have you read Man's Search for Meaning? Right, it talks about, like, in the camps in World War II, some of the Jews would write about how they could still look back and talk about positive times because they would have, you know, gallows humor amongst their group. They would have music, they would have this, they would have that. So it's like, even in those circumstances, you can still find those, like, little bright spots. But then if that gets taken away from you, even then, I can understand why people want to kill themselves, which is pretty fucking heavy.
Zach,
Next question.
Pulled up your
All right, so I was looking up the book you get for free on what is this? Audible with your membership, which is what I'm about to do.
Well, it's
what is it?
The first part is about his experiences of being in the camp. So he survived the Holocaust. So he was a psychotherapist prior to the Holocaust, survived Auschwitz, I think it was. And then the second part of the book relates his experiences to psychotherapy.
Jesus.
Yeah.
What is the quality you most like in a man or woman?
Different question.
Yeah, men probably service. I feel like, again, you know, having a kid. I mean, one of the things that I talked about when I decided to leave coaching is just like, actually, I want I want to have a little bit more of an impact than, oh, my guys are better at chasing the ball than your guys. You know, I would like to make a little bit more of an impact. And I think ultimately it comes down to serving others. Certainly you can serve yourself in the process. I think it's probably more productive when you do, but it's got to feel pretty empty and have a lot of enemies in life if you serve yourself at the expense of others. And, you know, I feel a lot of like pressure when I speak to like JJ and Fernando about like the business and stuff like that, about we're all in it together. But I also I feel quite a lot of pride and achievement about the fact that we're able to do that, and that those opportunities are there for them as well. So service, I guess.
What quality do you most like in a woman?
As you know, dear boy, I've learned the hard way to appreciate good humor more and more. I mean, the longest relationship that I ever had with a woman, it was the best humored. We were best friends, and she was very, very funny. So I do have a thing for psychopaths. I like a little bit of spice, but I like to laugh. Yeah, I like to laugh. So I suppose good humor. Whilst we're in the middle of this, next question.
What is a trait you most deplore in yourself?
That I would tread on someone just to be sure to win.
What's the trait you most deplore in others?
I fucking hate what we encountered at William and Mary, which is content to maintain the status quo through either ignorance, laziness, delusion, anything like that. You know, I think with you and I have talked about before, which is if you're going to be at one place for 20 years, it better be because your medal cabinet is fucking bursting. And if it's not, you don't deserve to be there. Now, I've never won anything as a coach, honestly. I've never won a league, but I fucking worked like I was trying to. And I feel I really, really, really hate to work with people like that, because not only are they wasting their time, they're wasting mine too. And death waits for us all.
Yo.
What do you most value in your friends?
Again, it's probably the good humor. I feel like no, it's probably, I don't know. I feel like you could, like, our group of friends, you could tell our group of friends pretty much anything and not get a reaction other than them taking the piss out of you.
Oh, trust me, I feel that one daily, but keep going.
You fool. No, I feel like that. I mean, that's what I value. That's what I value. Yeah, I'll go with that.
Who is your favorite hero of fiction?
I am gonna bail on this one because as I put on Twitter, was it Twitter or Instagram? A week ago, somebody asked me like, "Oh, you know, what's your favorite book?" I haven't read fiction in over 10 years. I read. I didn't even read it. I fucking listened to it because I used to travel an hour each way to work. I listened to Moby Dick in 1984, and I said on Instagram that listening about a dystopian future in which the totalitarian state watches over your every move, and a tale about a guy that chased a white whale to the point that it killed him, prepared me for college athletics. Yeah, no, I never. It's just I really struggle to get into fiction. I think, you know, even when I was growing up as a kid, I would read cover to cover, like fact books, how things work, all that kind of shit, and never. I mean, I did read more fiction as a kid, but I could never really get into it. So I guess I'm just more interested by the real world. I'll say fucking Harry Potter, like those people that applied for the scholarships.
Oh my God. You know what's funny is I think it was like in elementary school. I read one chapter of one of those books and I immediately threw it away. Never got into that stuff. So whoever
witchcraft goes against Jesus.
Hey, we're not getting that debate on here. Who are your heroes?
I have cousins that were not allowed to read Harry Potter growing up because it promoted witchcraft.
You know what? I don't think anybody directly in my family was like that. But yeah, no. There were definitely I got some good old Southern Baptist religious stories outside of this conversation one day.
You know all that like Southern Baptist stuff. Imagine a white middle class version of that. That was their wedding. That was like exactly the vein that they were in. And yeah, I remember and my mom telling me like, "Oh yeah, your cousin's not allowed to read Harry Potter."
Who are your heroes in real life?
I know you're supposed to be fucking cliched and say your parents, but fuck. I feel like anyone that would knowingly put themselves in harm's way or make big sacrifices is to be admired. Like, it blows my mind that Scott's mother gave his dad a kidney. It's a great way to lock down the marriage and prevent a divorce also. But fucking hell, like, his parents have my respect.
50% of everything in a divorce, fellas. 50%. 50% of everything in the divorce. Husband made out like a bandit. He got a kidney.
No, I've met like Doug Ketchagin. His job, you know, he was a parachute rescue man for a long time, and you just meet people like that. You're like, fucking hell, like you've got like more service in your little finger than I've probably had in my entire life.
You know, it's funny. It's funny you bring up the part about like the corny answer of it being your parents, but I think the reason why people say that or want to say that is because that's the role a parent's supposed to be in. And I think that's something you always talk about, just kind of referencing back to us in the group, is that something you always talk about for Anderson. So I think it's what you're supposed to do as a person, and like, especially when somebody that's as vulnerable as your child would be. And I think it's also on the opposite end of the spectrum, it's such a big difference when somebody like a parent isn't in that role. So I think that's not advocating for it, but I think that's why it's such an easy answer, because it's the most like at home answer a person could think of given the situation, good or bad.
In your face. Yeah. No, I mean, I grew up with both of my parents and they were both very committed, but historically I have not gotten with my dad at all. Like, to the point where in my 30s, I just dropped him and didn't talk to him for a year. So it's much more of a begrudging relationship. And
because it's funny you bring that up, because like for me, it's the opposite with like at least my dad. Like, I'm gonna call my dad as soon as we get after this call. But on the other end of the spectrum, like my mother, like the only like communication I'm gonna have with my mother is at her funeral, and that's when I make sure she's in the ground. So like I completely understand both sides of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to my sister a lot about it, and I'm more forgiving with time, but it should be a major red flag that a relationship is best with several time zones and an ocean between two people. That's the way I said it to her. But yeah, I mean, certainly your upbringing, for example, like that's tough. I did not have a tough upbringing. Yours is tough.
Yeah, somebody out there, some 13-year-old Chinese girl's got a much harder life than I do, so I'll be all right.
You're doing quite well, Zach.
You said what? You said what, Scotty?
Quite well.
Yeah.
You're doing fucking tremendous. My respect for you, and your achievements was so enhanced the more I learn about where you come from. Now let's stop sucking each other's dicks and move on to the next question.
Is it you or me, Scotty?
Let me see.
I think it's you.
Which living person do you most admire?
We said that one, right? Was it?
No. Which living person do you most admire? And then now, or no, right?
Who are your heroes? Yeah.
Who are your heroes in real life? They're just like really similar questions back to back.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you who I admire. Mark Rebier. Because it's like he doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't give a fuck. If you don't like it, unsubscribe. He's gonna sing in his underpants about eating
kimono,
about eating pussy, ass, all that shit. And I love that he can sell out places and people will pay money. And he gets to meet Snoop Dogg and Ice-T, and Halle Berry watches his videos because he's fucking doing it his way. And I remember I was watching videos of his just before I left the school, and I thought, fuck this. So that's why I put up videos of me fucking throwing money at athletes when they squat. I say the word fuck on social media. I'm done.
You know what's funny is you post that video the other day, the amount of like shares I got of people sending that because they know that I know you and know that we're good friends. They said like, did he really do this? I'm like, yeah, like he did this like well over a year ago. I remember when he sent me the video that day, like I laughed hysterically in my office. Like this isn't like new to me. Like it's just who he is.
And it's funny.
and it's fucking hilarious because it's unapologetic. It's unapologetically yourself. Like I think that's what a lot of people appreciate. So, what do you consider the most overrated virtue?
I mean, I suppose all virtues, if they're honest manifestations, are virtues by definition. I fucking hate fake humility. I hate it when an athlete I know is a cunt and doesn't like me calls me sir. I hate the fucking fake, let's all get on our knees and pray before a game, like the same God that gives AIDS to babies in Africa takes a personal interest in your football game, especially at the FCS level, because it's not even big time. Shit like that. But you know, if it's an honest, meaningful virtue, it's virtuous, I guess. Interestingly enough, Nassim Taleb has said that the only virtue that can't be faked is courage. Because if you want to pretend to be courageous and run towards gunfire, guess what? You are.
It's a size principle of human character. It's all or nothing, baby.
Yeah. I remember watching a video of, you remember when that nightclub in Paris got shot up?
Yeah.
In one of the SWAT guys, there's 5 of them run towards. You hear this like AK go off, like bang, 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 bang. 4 go back, and this one guy just fucking goes straight towards it. I'm like, fucking hell, that's heavy. That's heavy. There was one time in my life where someone said that I was brave. And honestly, if you'd asked me would you do this if this happened? I'd be like, no, probably not. And what it was like, honestly, it's the closest to an out of body experience I've ever had. I was in Sydney and driving along, and then literally just like pure chance, it was 4 lanes of traffic, like 2 on each side. As I stopped the car in traffic, I turned my head and there was a cyclist, and he was on his bike, and he goes up like this, and he had an epileptic seizure and fell into the middle of the road. And I swear to God, before I knew what was happening, I was walking across 4 lanes of traffic in the rain to pick this guy up. And I just left my car in the fucking middle of the road. And it fucking freaked me out as well. Because I remember there was this person. He was like having a fit in the middle of the road. And I was like trying to drag him out of the street and hold him up. And this person just like fucking walks past me and looks and wasn't even going to stop. And I literally said to a stranger, I said, where the fuck do you think you're going? So it was kind of weird, but yeah. Next question.
On what occasions do you lie?
To spare feelings, which of course just makes problems down the road. I think, it's like all poor human behaviors. It's the avoidance of pain in the short term, not understanding that you've just created an exponentially larger amount in the long term. Because I am a dreadful people pleaser. Next.
Which words or phrases do you most overuse? Next question.
No. Look at this. Right, I showed you. If I just searched the word cunt on my WhatsApp, it will highlight every instance of me using it. Okay, here we go. Say whenever you want.
When?
We're only back to March. There you go. Yeah, I say cunt an awful lot with love. I say it with love. I also say, how are you? I say, oh, how are you? Those two, I say fuck a lot. Yeah. But I say it with love.
Always with love. If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
I would stop and reflect more. I've the highest points of my life, I've probably been happy for 5 minutes. And then it was like, right, what's next?
I get that. Me and Dan Howes have talked about that a few times. So me and him have talked. I get that. It's
like I've spoken to TK about it, which is positive traits taken to extremes become negatives, and accepting the fact that it is not healthy, not necessary, and giving it up is like a musician worrying that if they give up the drugs that they're not going to be any good. So worrying that if you take time to smell the roses and be like, oh fucking hell, this was good and blah 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 blah, that you're suddenly going to lose the momentum and people are going to gain ground on you and you're going to lose everything that you've worked for, is a tightrope that I don't like to try and tread. So I'm like, right, what's next? But if you're always work, what's next? What is it, the phrase? If the journey doesn't bring you joy, the destination never will. So I'm probably I've really tried to avoid, as I get older, kind of hedonic treadmill of like, I want that thing over there, go get it. It's like, right, that's not good enough. What's the next thing? Whereas I'm trying to enjoy more the process of doing things and to be more rational in how I evaluate things. So for example, like in the business, I will beat myself up last month and this month for not making enough money, but both of those months would be record months, like 1 and 2 pre-COVID. But if you offered me that on a plate a year and a bit ago and said, oh, you're going to make this next month, or, you know, this, I'd be like, fucking hell, that's going to be amazing. How am I going to feel if we do that? And I literally spoke to JJ yesterday or the day before, like, right, this is not fucking good enough. What are we going to do about this? So, yeah.
What are your favorite names?
Anderson, my baby.
How would you like to die?
I mean, if you believe that when you die, that's it, the lights are out, you know, it's much easier to articulate than it is to accept on a psychological level, but you have nothing more to fear from after your life than before it. It's just non-existence. So how do you feel about, I don't know, the French Revolution? You have no fucking feelings about it whatsoever because you weren't a person then, it didn't affect you. The same is true of death. So it's the awareness that you're going to die and the process of dying that contains the fear. So obviously I think about this like, oh, you know, would I want to die in my bed as an old man with my family around me like that, and be like, well, actually that's going to be the stressful part. Like maybe I'll just feel like to walk down the street and get a bullet in the back of the head. I don't know. Yeah. It's a heavy one.
If you were to die, come back as a person or thing, what do you think it would be?
What would I come back as?
You'd probably come back as some Title IX coordinator, but that's just me.
HR at William and Mary.
Listen, if my kid was to come back home and say, Dad, I'm gay, I'd say, cool. As long as you're happy, you know, go get yourself a good man. Say, oh, you know, Dad, I'm into Gota. I'd say, okay, that's kind of weird, but do you? Dad, you know, I've joined a right-wing political group that's got me on some kind of watch list. I'm on a no-fly list. I say, well, you know, as long as you're non-violent, you're entitled to your political beliefs. It's unpalatable to me, but do you? And if my kid came home and said, I've accepted a job in HR, I would say, you fucking what, you little cunt? I have no son. Get out of my house.
You are no son of mine.
Hey, let me put it to you this way. The importance of your role to an organization is directly proportional to the absence that will be felt should you not turn up to work the next day. Agreed? Okay, if your HR person didn't turn up to work, would you feel it the next day?
Fuck no.
Exactly. Fucking rent-seeking oxygen thief, motherfucking cunts. Cheers.
How would we know to leave the coffee burners on for the people who come into work at a normal 9 to 5 hour, if not for them to send us those emails to remind us of how many hours beyond the normal work day we're working? And the coffee we don't get access to because we lived in the basement.
All right, this is a thumbnail. It's just me. This is the thumbnail of the video. It's just me shaking my head.
We're in the last one. Shit.
Last one, baby.
What is your motto, and what is the best software to use for putting out workouts to your athletes?
I'm going to answer that in reverse. Team builder. And my motto, I have a few, but I feel like I like he who makes a beast of himself gets rid of the pain of being a man. If it is to be, then it begins with me. I like when all is said and done, more is said and done. I like here we fucking go, cunts. I'm gonna, the cat's out the bag. I have found, athletes to be a lot like an old school PC, where if you just give them a shock, like a Control-Alt-Delete on the brain, there's actually a window of performance that opens up. So I would occasionally be in the habit of when they unrack a heavy squat, I would get maybe 1 inch, 2 inches from their ear, and I would just whisper, "Here we fucking go, cunt." in that moment of confusion, then I'd start to fucking crank up and get them to squat, because it's the shock. Because here's the thing. Zatskiorski, a novel exercise is a form of overload in itself, correct? So if you're being told, if the bar ain't bending, you're just pretending, yeah, all that bullshit. And then somebody comes up in your ear and says, "Here we fucking go, cunt." What? It's like, it's verbal steroids.
So to be clear, the phrase is not hard work forging great culture?
Depends who's asking. And one of the proudest moments of my life was when we were on a sideline, and I think it was like somebody dropped a pass, or like there was like some error in defense, and one of the linebackers just went, "You fucking what, cunt?" Me and Scott were like, "Ah!"
Culture set.
Tremendous. All right.
Oh shit.
Cheers, boys.